to thank everybody for being here this afternoon. We're here today to talk about the May 29 incident, police-involved shooting at Sterling Costco. I was asked, as part of my duties, to undertake a review of that incident from the State Police and the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. Today we're going to be releasing a report of that review. I will say that this is a tragic event, and all of us wish we didn't have to be here today. I would like to recognize, if I could, before I get started, Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman and Captain Dave Rosillo with the Virginia State Police. And I want to thank their agencies for undertaking a thorough review of this incident and providing me all the information necessary with which to undertake that review. I will say that before releasing this report to the public, we all did have the opportunity to meet with members of the victims of the decedent's family today, some of her friends, as well as members of the Philippine Embassy who have some questions to respond to their community, and also on behalf of some of the family members that still reside in the Philippines. What I'll do is, at this time, if anyone would like a copy of the report, it's behind you. If we need additional copies, we'll be happy to make more available. We will also provide an electronic version on our website, and we'll provide that link a little bit later today. I do also want to recognize members of the Sheriff's Office command staff that are here to my left and to my right that oversee operations and investigations and scene collection of evidence. I will at this time just summarize the findings in this report. The report is obviously going to be more detailed than I'm going to give here today, and we can all answer any questions if there are any. On May 29, 2013, Loudoun County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to an emergency 911 call approximately 3 p.m. The call was made by an employee of Costco Wholesale at the Sterling branch. The call was in reference to an employee being disorderly, acting erratically, wielding a knife and scissors. Deputies responded to that location. With the rear of the store, there were numerous patrons in the store at the time. Employees were trying to de-escalate the situation prior to calling law enforcement to assist. While in the process of trying to disarm and take this individual into custody, she was fatally shot. Among the items that were reviewed, I detail in this report in excess of 40 individual police reports, 911 calls, dispatch audio traffic, nearly 3 hours of videotape interview with officers and individuals in the store, surveillance footage, some data, scanning data of the scene that the state police was able to provide. I will say the state police were called in shortly after the Sheriff's Office were called and assisted the Sheriff's Office in conducting a joint investigation and collection of any potential evidence. Preliminary data from the taser that was deployed at the time has been reviewed. I also conducted a personal visual inspection of the scene. There were a variety of medical records that were reviewed. The Sheriff's Office general orders were reviewed, not for their correctness, but in their application to what occurred here. We were able to gather some historical information on the decedent, and there were nearly 300 digital photographs of the scene itself, as well as the autopsy that was conducted. Just in describing the incident briefly, many of you are familiar with it, and you will see in, I believe it's attachment 2, a picture of the actual aisle where the incident took place. The aisle is 23 feet in length, 8.5 feet wide. The deputies arrived there. 2 positioned themselves at one end of the aisle, 3 on the opposite end of the aisle. 3 had tasers withdrawn, 2 with firearms. According to all accounts, there were numerous commands for Ms. Scott to drop the knife, drop the scissors. None of them were complied with. When one of the deputies attempted to deploy his taser, deputies on the opposite end of the aisle holstered their firearms and tasers and prepared to essentially be the cuff team to take her into custody and remove her from the store. When the taser was deployed, it made contact with Ms. Scott. However, for reasons unknown, the taser did not function, or did not work properly. And it could be either mechanical error or human error. It's undetermined at that time, this time. When she was struck with the taser darts, she turned toward the deputy that had deployed the taser, turned again to face the deputies that had holstered their weapons and had their handcuffs out. She raised the knife and scissors and charged toward them. Those deputies attempted to transition back to the firearms, and one deputy was the focus of the movement. The deputy immediately left, was able to throw his firearm, discharged his weapon 5 times, striking Ms. Scott 4 more times. She stumbled forward and eventually fell to the ground. In the course of this, one deputy was struck by one of the rounds that was discharged. He was struck in the lower leg. I did outline a lot of the information that was gathered here, specifically with respect to the video surveillance. If you look at the series of attachments and the description under the video surveillance in the report, it walks you step by step through the actions as we saw them, and are consistent with the actions as described by customers, employees, as well as deputies on scene. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way the camera was situated. As you can see, it only captured half of the aisle where this incident took place. So you can see the end of the aisle where the taser was deployed, but not where she rushed and was ultimately shot. State police, in helping assist with this crime scene, this incident scene, deployed a device, a data scanning station, which takes photographic and digital readings and is able to put essentially a 3-dimensional digital image on the laptop. So you can actually walk through the scene, position yourself in various positions where witnesses said they were, and see from their position what they saw, what the deputies saw. With respect to the autopsy, it was confirmed by the medical examiner, and while we do not have a final medical report as of yet, I did consult with the medical examiner's office and had a verbal consultation with them, where they did not find any, made no abnormal findings in the examination. The medical examiner did confirm that both prongs of the taser were firmly embedded in the flesh. The firearm that was deployed was sent off to the Department of Forensic Science for functionality tests, comparative analysis for shell casings. This is routine. However, there's no indication that there was any other firearm that was deployed or discharged at that time. In combination with this, I had the opportunity to review the general orders of the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office to govern the use of force. You'll see starting on page 6 and the pages that follow the summaries of witness statements. I did note in these witness statements the initials of the individuals to respect their privacy, but I gave a description of them as far as their age, sex, and what their statements were. 32 witness summaries in total are summarized in this report. 17 customers, 9 employees, and 6 members of the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. There are additional witnesses or individuals that were at the scene that were interviewed that are not contained within these summaries, and I note that in the report. And the reason is that they were either not in the immediate area or the information was otherwise accumulated. Some consistencies, I'd say, throughout these statements are that Ms. Scott was directed numerous times, verbal commands to drop her weapons. Many of the witnesses, employees, customers, and law enforcement describe Ms. Scott as in some sort of medical or mental condition. She's described as talking incoherently or illogically, not making sense, being non-responsive, with varying degrees of looks on her face. I did mention that we were able to acquire some historical information on Ms. Scott. And essentially, it described an incident in February 2012. She was living in New Albany, Ohio. The report described a situation where her husband at the time called law enforcement to the residence out of concern for their children. There was a series of text messages that he was receiving that are outlined in here, a sampling of those text messages, which do pose some concern. I had the opportunity to review those reports from New Albany, Ohio, as well as the onboard cruiser camera, and the audio from that, which goes through her behavior. Now, while that is not directly related to the incident here, I think it gives us good insight and a good perspective as to what conditions she may have been undergoing at the time that may have reoccurred. It also gives us a good idea of what the deputies may have been facing and the employees of the store may have been facing at the time that they were attempting to de-escalate the situation. After a review of all this information, I come to the conclusion that the actions taken by the sheriff's deputies were consistent with the departmental policies governing the use of force, and I've determined that the use of force done in this situation was in self-defense, defense of others, including the patrons of the store, as well as the other deputies on scene. The use of lethal force in a situation such as this must be done from a reasonableness perspective, and that the reasonableness of the officer on the scene, rather than Monday morning quarterbacking or with 20/20 vision of hindsight. The Supreme Court of the United States does note this in their reported opinions, and they also state that police officers are often forced to make split-second decisions in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving. This was one of those situations. While the killing in self-defense or in defense of others is justifiable homicide when one is faced with death or serious bodily injury as well as an imminent threat. In this situation, one of the attachments, or two of the attachments rather, are the items that Ms. Scott wielded at the time. One is a 13-inch carving knife, 5-inch handle, 8-inch blade, the other pair of scissors. And under Virginia law, those are or can be considered deadly weapons, those which could produce death or great bodily injury. I've concluded that the deputy's actions constitute a justifiable homicide as the killing done was a reasonable use of lethal force given the totality of the facts, and that it was undertaken in self-defense and defense of others, and that there was imminent danger at the time of this incident when Ms. Scott charged one of the deputies with the two weapons raised. With that, if there are any questions, I'll take them.